All good things must come to an end as the Capitals get blanked by the Lightning.
Your Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Well, hello and welcome into this edition of Locked On Capitals. I'm so glad you decided to join me today. As always, this podcast is free and available on all the major platforms, including the SiriusXM app and on YouTube. And I want to thank you for making this your first listen each and every day. My name is Dan Holme. I've covered the Capitals for the last 3 seasons for Locked On and various other outlets before that. I'm also the host of the weekly show called The Capitals Minutecast, available wherever you find your podcasts. You can find me on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. You can find the show on Twitter. It's at Locked On Caps. And the best way that you can help grow the show is to subscribe to Locked On Capitals on YouTube and comment anything down below. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. So in this edition of Locked On Capitals, all good things must come to an end as the Capitals snap their 5-game winning streak and get blanked by the Lightning. Ultimately, what was it about? Vasilevskiy proved to be too much for the Capitals. I'll talk about that a little bit later. I'll talk about Tampa's defense and goaltending. Listen, the Capitals have struggled at points this season, but the Tampa Bay Lightning, I think, posed the biggest challenge for the Capitals. How were they so effective against the Capitals? And then in the final segment, I'll talk about the power play woes for the Caps. But just to get it going here, I wish I had better news to come to you guys with it. The Capitals won another game that they won 6 in a row. Things are going really great, but they lost, and it was against a really good Tampa Bay Lightning team, ending a 5-game winning streak and getting blanked 3-0. That is definitely not what I had hoped for. And, you take a look at this season so far. The Capitals have played well, all things considered. You take a look at the first game of the season, they fall to the Devils, and some people are like, uh-oh, these big moves that were made this offseason, were they the right moves? Well, as it turned out, that was just a blip on the radar, or rust, I guess you could say, as the Capitals went on a tear and won a bunch of games. And this is the first game that they've lost in quite some time to the Lightning, a good team to be sure. But, you take a look at it, ultimately what went wrong in the offensive performance for the team. And is the biggest thing I would say is the Capitals struggled to maintain pressure in the offensive zone. And then the Lightning effectively shutting down opportunities. And the Capitals weren't able to get any traction in this game. One comes to mind is that Alexei Protas going on a bit of a breakaway and not finding the back of the net. Those are the things that definitely need to be cleaned up. But, sometimes the analytics, sometimes they don't tell the whole story of the game. And of course, the Capitals lost. That's not very ambiguous. We know how the Capitals played, but despite outshooting the Lightning 31-21, the Capitals could not solve Vasilevskiy. He is the netminder that we all remember. He achieved his first career shutout against them. So quite a thing for the Capitals, if you think about it. Not the kind of records that you want to have. I'm sure that Vasilevskiy, Andrei Vasilevskiy, is quite happy about it. But as Capitals fans, it was a bit of a bummer. But if I'm going to look at bright things, I talked about what Tampa did to start out, how they shut down the Capitals. There were some players that stepped up and played rather big. Key players for the Capitals in particular are Pierre-Luc Dubois. He had multiple scoring opportunities, hit the post, receiving 2 strong looks, but failed to convert. And one of the things, and I was talking with the Caps Chirp podcast about PLD, and that sometimes, you take a look at goals and you look at assists, that I think that what PLD brings to this team isn't as easily quantifiable. One of the things that Spencer Carberry said is he has a great hockey IQ, that he skates well. He's got that big frame. on the top line with Tom Wilson that I think that Pierre-Luc Dubois has been a huge piece for this team. Make no mistake about it. It's just that I think that oftentimes, like I say, if he's not scoring a bunch of goals, people are saying, well, was this guy really worth it? The Capitals took a big bite out of that PLD apple. They have 7 years under contract on this team. Was he the right to do it? And just that, despite the fact the Capitals had their struggles, he had multiple scoring opportunities. And you take a look at it for the Lightning. It was a big night for them, too, as Conor Geekie scored his first NHL goal. And what was it about? Capitalizing on a turnover. And that's what it was. Capitals making mistakes, and the Lightning making the Capitals pay. That was pretty much the story of the game. And when you take a look at it, the first period, well, that was kind of a nothing burger for both teams. I think that when you take a look at it, that the Lightning really took it to the Capitals in the second and third period. But talking about players in particular that stood out. Again, guys, I'm going to try to give you the good news. I don't want to just hit you with a bunch of negativity that the Capitals lost a game and it's doom and gloom. But PLD and Trevor Van Riemsdyk led the Capitals with 4 shots each. Now, 4 shots. They didn't find the back of the net, so not something to be proud of. But the Capitals were generating opportunities. They just weren't able to find the back of the net, and certain players stepping up for the Capitals as well. It wasn't just the forwards. Jacob Chychrun had 6 shot attempts blocked. Jacob Chychrun is that interesting player on this team. That what are the Capitals going to do in the long term? I'm loving his game, playing primarily on that top pairing with John Carlson. But one of the things that BMAC said that when he was first brought here is, let's see if he's comfortable playing here. Let's see if the Capitals organization is comfortable with him playing here. One of the things that we know about Jacob Chychrun is that he kind of wanted out of Ottawa. He wanted out of the Coyotes organization. That let's not be too thirsty when it comes to Jacob Chychrun. Don't be that guy that tells your girl that you love her on the first date. Let's not be too eager to sign Jacob Chychrun. I like his game. I like what I've seen thus far. But let's see how he's going to play, let's say, between now and the Thanksgiving break. Does he still like playing here? Is he still having success here? Those are the things to take a look at. And Tom Wilson doing what he does best, recorded 5 hits. And it's one of the things that, Tom Wilson isn't, doing as much this season as he has in previous seasons, is dropping the mitts. But I think it was a game of frustration for the Capitals, and ultimately why he was, putting his body to work. Not finding the back of the net. That would have been great. But to hit these guys in the board and try to soften their armor a little bit, that would have been the big thing. Taking a look at Charlie Lindgren and how he played out there, stopped 17 of 20. I think that he did as good as he possibly could. I'm not here to admonish him of all guilt, but all things considered, I think he did well, considering the circumstance, right? That the defense for the Capitals was not some of the most stout defense out there. It'll be interesting to see what the Capitals plan on doing out there on Tuesday evening as they take on the Rangers, as that is going to be a tough out for the Capitals as well. They got to find a way to overcome and be a better team. But again, I don't want to be too down in the dumps. I don't want to be doubting this team. What I am saying is that they need to improve what was deficient against Tampa and move on. They don't have a lot of time. As you listen to this, it's either going to be Sunday evening or it's going to be Monday morning. And thank you for all that are listening and watching. Just know the Capitals didn't win. They got blanked. It wasn't all bad, but it was definitely not all good either. Let's hope they can clean it up and pick up a big win over the Rangers. All right, so coming up here straight ahead, we'll talk about Tampa's defense and goaltending, and ultimately, how did the Lightning find a way to end the Capitals' winning streak? I'll discuss straight ahead. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long with Prize Picks. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Prize Picks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with injury insurance policy, so your lineups stay live even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks keeps your lineups live. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's use promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team. Every day talking about the Capitals as their winning streak grinds to a halt. And already taking a look at social media, some people are down in the dumps. You know, this Capitals team, they got blanked. Maybe they weren't as good as everyone thought. Let's not get too ahead of ourselves. This is a team that won 5 in a row against some big opponents. Dallas, the Golden Knights. They did the second time they played the Devils, they played well. They beat them, and back-to-back victories over the Flyers. That yes, in fact, this team is good. You're going to lose games here and there. And that at the end of the day, it was Tampa's defense and goaltending, which proved to be too much for the Capitals. And then that's what it's about. There's not a whole, it's not too ambiguous. We know what happened. Tampa Bay's defense excelled. You know, that's what happened with efficient back checking, preventing clean entries and shots on net for the Capitals. And back checking, that's one of the things. And it's just, they are vicious. They are on top of you the entire way. They don't allow for a lot of opportunities to score, I guess I'm going to say. And they got better as the game went on. And that was one of the things that the Capitals had in overtime, had a hard time overcoming. The Lightning scored their first goal in the second period, followed by Nikita Kucherov's goal in the third. So, you know, they have big weapons there, and they'll make you pay if you're not ready for them. And that's one of the big things the Capitals will have to overcome is these teams that are aggressive on back checking, forechecking, lifting sticks, those kind of things. That I think that the Capitals got caught a bit flat-footed. And the biggest thing that I cannot overemphasize enough is that Andrei Vasilevskiy is fierce. He's a huge netminder, and the Capitals had a hard time overcoming his stout play in net. But just taking a look at it, the Capitals did have their opportunities. Like I talked about in the first segment, that Protas had his opportunity, wasn't able to find the back of the net. Even though your opponent is difficult and it's a tough team to play at times, you have got to find a way to overcome. Now you take a look at defensively for the Capitals and how it's all going to shake out as well. Is that what is it going to look like when Matt Roy is back on the team? Who is going to come out of the lineup there? That I think that to a certain extent, certain things are still in flux. We saw the success that the second line has had, but the third line is a bit of a question mark. We might see a bit of a different look against the Rangers, and that's a big thing. Who's going to be in net? Will it be Logan Thompson in net? I do expect, if history is any lesson, that Spencer Carberry is going to want to shake things up a little bit. You know, you take a look, he made big changes after the first loss of the regular season, made big changes to the third line. And not only that, you saw Mangiapane and Protas and all those move around that. I think that it's time to tinker with things a little bit. I would not be too surprised to see Sonny Milano in there. And this is all in reference to how the Capitals fared against the Lightning. And I think it's important not to blow things up just because you have one bad game here or there, but just the understanding that, you know, you got to find a way to do better. And the thing that was glaringly apparent is that the Tampa Bay Lightning are very good. And through large swaths of the game, the Capitals did not have a really good answer. And it's tough because, the Capitals did play well against the Devils, but at some point, the Capitals are going to face a team a lot like the Lightning or the Lightning again. And are they going to be good enough to find a way to overcome? I don't want to think, that this team is horrible because they got blanked by that team, but they need to be better. And I think that certain tinkering here and there, I think will definitely help this team excel. One of the things that's apparent to me in particular is Ovechkin. We need to get more goals scored by Alex Ovechkin. And the thing of it is that, there is a lot of responsibility placed on him, but on games that historically he has showed up and played very well, he was non-existent. I think, how much better would this game have been if, the Capitals would have got off on the right foot and scored the first goal first. I think the Capitals would have been in a much better position, right? So they need to fine tune some things. I think that the Capitals are heading in the right direction, given the fact that they won 5 games in a row. But it's not just that. They need to re-engage this team. And, it's kind of just based on the big additions. It's kind of surprising to a certain extent that they did get blanked on one hand and not on the other. That at some point you are going to come to a team that is just going to make your team grind to a halt. But that's what they're going to have to do. The game is on Tuesday evening. And if you take a look at their schedule ahead, they got Columbus, they got Nashville, the Canadiens, that even though, they're going to play some teams that aren't necessarily as high in the standings, they got to be ready. But the big thing is finding a way to generate shots. They did get shots, but finding the back of the net, shots on net, those kind of things, and mixing it up a little bit, taking that snow globe up and shaking it up a little bit, move Alex Ovechkin around a little bit, those kind of things that I think that would definitely help the Capitals in their pursuit of winning these games, because, you don't want to go, on a losing streak at some point here. And I don't want to get ahead of myself and say that is going to be the case. But I think that you don't want to take it lightly either. And one of the things is my biggest thing is the ongoing struggles with their power play, which I'll talk about in the next segment, and defense against a well-prepared Tampa Bay team proved to be too much for the Capitals. Again, brush your shoulders off. There is going to be another game on Tuesday evening against a really good Rangers team. Are they going to have what it takes for them to overcome and get back into the win column? I'll discuss coming up. Get ready to tackle the NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. And listen, there is a lot of football on any given Sunday or Monday or Thursday, and some of those games you're more into. Say it's a Commanders game or a Ravens game, but say you want to be interested in all the games, put a little bit of money on some of those games, and all of a sudden they get that much more exciting. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So one of the biggest things that the Capitals need to clean up is their power play. And it seems like something that I've talked about on the show for quite some time this season, last season. And do they ultimately have what it takes to change it up? And one of the biggest things, I think, is to move Alex Ovechkin around a little bit. One of the things that I could say about him is that he's predictable. Setting up from that left dot is predictable. At 39 years old, that shot is not quite as lethal as it once was. In any event, they have coaches that are out there to take care of these situations. The Capitals do. And it's interesting that are they putting the right people in charge of all of this? They hire these coaches to take on those missions, the power play, the penalty kill, all these sorts of things. What is the onus on those coaches if they don't get the results? And at what point do you think that Spencer Carberry, he takes a look at things and says, hey, you might want to work with this or you might want to work with that. And I know, well, because I have a history doing that with the Maple Leafs before that. But taking a look at power play struggles in general, the Caps, they struggled. They couldn't capitalize on their power play opportunities, going 0 for 17 in their last 5 games. Unacceptable, Capitals fans. And it's one of the things that's definitely going to get drawn into focus as this season progresses, when we start to take a deep dive into analytics and say, hey, this would have been a game had they scored a goal on the power play, or say they're struggling on the PK. This would have been a game they would have won if they would have killed off this penalty. Going 0 for 17 is just not acceptable. Considering all the players that they have on this lineup, there is zero reason why they are having so little success. For the longest time, like I said, Alex Ovechkin was absolutely lethal from that left dot. Not so much anymore. How are they going to overcome? That's the tough part. They were unable to get a shot on their only power play opportunity in this game, and John Carlson's penalty was cut short a second chance. So you take a look at it. Sometimes they're given opportunities on the power play and they don't capitalize on it. So that's the tough part there. The fact that they were unable to get a shot on their only full power play opportunity in the game is unacceptable. And, again, you can cut certain excuses in the game that, hey, Tampa's good here. They're not so good in this aspect. At the end of the day, they got to find a way to do just that, to find the back of the net. And like I say, they do have the players in-house to get it done. I just think at the end, it's positioning. It's putting this player here, that player there, and maybe having different players on the different power play units, number 1 and 2. Mix it up. That's one of the things that the Capitals were able to get done earlier in the season, not on the power play. Sonny Milano out, Jacob Verana in, Mangiapane, third line. You take a look at Protas, first line. That sometimes you think, well, how big of a change can it really make? How is that going to make that big of a difference? It's not working. The Capitals' power play right now, quite simply, is just not working. How are they going to get it done? How are they going to clean it up? Again, I would like to see that. That is my goal for them. And, this is Dan's goal for the Capitals, is to get off the schneid and score a goal in the next game against the Rangers. And, if I was the coach of the team or I was in charge of the power play, I would make that mission number 1. And one of the biggest things, like I said, I would do is to put Alex Ovechkin, move him. You got to move him. People know what he's going to do. And, to be fair, he's had a lot of success doing it, but they see it coming. His shot isn't quite as lethal, and the netminders are prepared for what's coming. Listen, that's what you got to do. This power play has got to do better. The Capitals, I think, right now are feeling pretty good. They won those 5. They had that 5-game winning streak, but all that can come crashing down in a hurry if you don't find a way to shore up the things that need to get worked on. There's not a lot of complaints about this team, all things considered. I know that a win last night, Saturday evening, would have been better, of course, but we don't have that to talk about. The one thing that we have to worry about is just the next task at hand, and that is taking on the Rangers. Let's hope that they looked at a bunch of videotape and see that if there were the deficiencies that were evident on the ice, how do they clean it up? How do they do better at generating opportunities? How are they more responsible with the puck? And how do they overcome teams that are really, really good, that have goal scoring up and down the lineup? See Tampa Bay, see the Rangers, who they're going to be playing next. They've got to find a way to do it if they want to have any plans of being successful this season. I ultimately think they do have what it takes, but ultimately it is up to them. All right. Once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Dan Holme, and I'll talk to you again next time.